When doesn't it happen? I mean, you're an entrepreneur when it's a shit show. How about that?
Thank you.
Let me
There
change
it
it
is.
up a bit.
There's
Yeah.
perfect. Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the show. So excited to have you. Have you ever felt like your brand is stuck? Need a little innovation? Well, meet Deevo Tindall. He's the founder of Fusion Creative, an entrepreneur, a holistic brand strategist. I love that. Can't wait to hear more. And a content creator who redefines branding and the narratives that we tell with our brands. So he does it through innovation, authenticity, and guess what? Storytelling. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Hey, just a reminder, our show is brought to you by SmartCookie Media, where we believe data tells a story, and not just any story, your business story. As a subscriber to the show or as a client, you'll get insights on profitable, data-driven marketing strategies that work for you and your business, your industry. Not some cookie cutter trends, no. Ideas that are led by your customer data so you know they'll work for you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram to learn more. Everything's in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Thanks so much, Deevo, for being here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, Deevo, let's start the show the way we do with every single guest. Tell me, how would you finish the sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
You know you're an entrepreneur when every challenge that you have is seen not as a setback, but as an opportunity or a stepping stone to innovate and grow your ultimate vision.
It sounds like there might be a story there. You got a story to share with us when that happened to you?
I mean, it happens every day, really, to be honest
Yes,
with you.
yes.
When doesn't it happen? I mean, you're an entrepreneur when it's a shit show. How about that?
Thank you.
Let me
There
change
it
it
is.
up a bit.
There's perfect. Haven't received that answer, but that is the answer we've been looking for a while.
Yeah, I mean, every day is just a different set of challenges. And I have a small team, so luckily I have some people to share in the shit show. But you just never know whether it's leads that you're pursuing that go dark or technology. Right now, we're having some technology outages in my office neighborhood and the entire internet is down. When the internet goes down, we don't have a podcast. We don't have much of a business. So we need to start figuring plan B out. And you have to be nimble and flexible and adaptive in order to survive.
Oh, indeed. So tell us, what do you do? What businesses do you own or have you owned?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur ever since I was like 12 years old. I just didn't know I was an entrepreneur back in those days. I owned my own lawn mowing business. And when I lived in Colorado, I had my own snow removal business, and those two sort of morphed. But after college, I went straight into the corporate world. So I did that stint for a while. But simultaneous to that, I was still running my photography business, which I still have today. In roughly 2018, I sort of started to change the focus of my photography business just because I was doing a lot of branding work and corporate work. And I sort of started to get burnt out on traditional photography, like weddings, working 14 hours every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I have kids. I wasn't seeing them. So I was like, this is not sustainable as much as I love doing it. And so I changed the focus of that business. And then Fusion Creative was launched. And here we are today. So we are a holistic branding marketing agency. And we work with small businesses and entrepreneurs to help them either grow an existing brand, launch a new product, or just sort of amplify their business in a marketplace.
Okay, so what does holistic mean to you or to your clients?
Well, they don't know what it means until I explain it to them. But the concept is really more of like a complete personality for your brand. So it's not just a logo. A lot of people sort of misunderstand the idea of what branding is. I don't even like to use the word branding, and I always make sure that I throw marketing in there. It's literally every touch point on your customer's journey, as well as every touch point on your journey as you grow your business and how you engage with your clients. So it's sort of double-sided. It's how you answer your phone. It's how your social media looks, what your website copy says, it's what your website looks like. It's what your branding, your jacket, your swag, it's everything. More importantly, consistency across that. So if you think about all the brands that you follow or the products you consume or the sodas that you drink, behind every single one of those, there's a message, and that in a crux is their brand. That's what they represent. Coke is drink happy, and Disney has their own message. And all of that is the story that a company or a brand is telling to their prospective audience to buy from me based upon this message.
So it's just logo design, right? No,
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
He's a quick learner.
He's
quick. Just 20 years. What is the Fusion message?
We take a very holistic approach to what we do. We partner with the brands that we work with. So it's your vision and our amplification. We use a very strategic and systematic approach to sort of identify, first and foremost, what is your core elements? What's your foundational business? Why did you get in business in the first place? And what is it that you believe in? And most importantly, what value do you bring to the table and what problems are you solving? And a lot of times, companies, especially smaller businesses or entrepreneurs, they don't take the time to figure that out. They have this really good idea, or they're a really good photographer, which they're fantastic at what they do in their craft, but they had no idea how to grow their business. They had no business acumen. And there's a statistic that 9 out of 10 photographers fail. And it's true because they didn't take the time to build a business first. And arguably, your photography is about 20 to 30% of what you actually do. The 70 to 80% is really running the business and engaging with your customers and having all the different pieces that support your ultimate business if you want to grow. And so once the foundation is built and we all have sort of a clear North Star, if you will, on where we want to go, we partner with them and use digital marketing to help them grow and amplify that message.
Is there a story there that you'd want to share with us? Maybe somebody that you've done that with or has been a long-time client?
I'll tell you what I'm working on right now. She is a former country music singer, and she was a pretty big deal back in the day. And then she got married and decided to sort of put everything on hold so she could raise her 4 kids. They're all off to college, married, doing their thing. And she wanted to break back into the music industry, but she had a different idea about how to do the type of music she wanted to do. But she didn't know where to begin because, time had passed her by and she wasn't sure if she was still relevant anymore. Through our approach, she did still have a pretty significant value proposition to offer. And it wasn't just centered around music, but it was also centered around community. She loves bringing up other people and mentoring and that sort of stuff. So we bridged the gap between the two, which allowed her to create a platform with a community of people who are less advantaged than she's had. And so we basically resurrected her career, got her back in the scene. And I'm happy to report that she's getting ready to release her first album. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So I can't actually release the name yet because
That's okay.
it's just not allowed.
Okay, so this is interesting. I tend to think very linear sometimes in business. And so I'm thinking about like a traditional business model of some sort. But yet what you're talking about, it's kind of like showing me how there is holistic branding to be done no matter what you do for a living, essentially, whether you're a solo person singing or whether you have a multi-million-dollar corporation, right?
100%. I mean, just think about your own businesses. Branding isn't just for companies. A lot of the stuff that we do is personal branding as well. So we have a lot of clients who have established themselves. Like someone I'm working with right now, he's a really successful business coach. He does high-level executive coaching. And he's sort of reached the pinnacle of where he wants to go with that in terms of, he's made a lot of money. He's got a lot of relationships, has a boatload of clients. But he's just sort of like, okay, I've gotten to where I want to go with this business, but now what? And so next is he wants to establish a personal brand so he can start doing keynotes and lectures and workshops and all those things, but he's not really sure how to go about building that.
There's so much more beyond just saying, hey, let's build a brand around it, because there's the actual ops behind that, right? So do you work with other partners to help facilitate those things? Because if they don't have a clue on where to go with this, you building a brand for them to take them to that level does them nothing unless they have those other components, right? Those other key pieces to help them take it from point A to point B. You understand what I'm saying, Deevo?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I like your insight on it. So I'll use the analogy of building a home. So you have a project manager for building a home, right? And that project manager goes out and finds all the necessary people and elements and tools to build the home. So it's not just one person. There's contractors and there's roofers and there's structural people and there's plumbers and there's electrical, right? It's a start to finish, cradle to grave operation. So I meet with my clients every single week, sometimes more than once a week with some of them. But once the foundation is built, then it's how do you support all the different pieces to grow this business? So we create a 6-month plan, a 12-month plan, whatever you want to call it, type of plans on how we're going to build the brand. We set revenue goals, we set connection goals, we set audience goals, et cetera. And then we use all the tools and the partnerships that we have built, paid advertising, search engine optimization, social media, building a fantastic website, sales funnels, lead gen, all sorts of different things. And we manage all of that for them so that they can focus on the things that they do best. We want you to succeed, but we also want you to stay in your lane. We'll stay in our lane and we partner with you and help you get there.
Stay in your lane. Love that. I think there's one thing that was missing though from Matt's question. What I heard was a bit around offer services. And as a marketer, I find that that's the one thing always when someone says, hey, you should offer this, or I remember starting the agency, you're going to offer this or this, right? And sometimes there's this rub of, as a marketer, we know how to see what prospects or buyers or their website visitors, what they're willing to buy, not because of price point, but sometimes because of pricing, not because just of messaging, but often because of messaging, but really positioning it, making sure, they may believe that they're authority on X and Y, but it's Z that's going to sell it. So can you speak to a little bit about how maybe you also come along and help them with offers and how sometimes you have to dig in with clients and say, this offer may not move?
Well, I think what's interesting is through the process itself, you tend to vet your clients simultaneously while they're vetting you. And that happens really early on because we're very, very particular about the type of engagements we take on. I sort of already know going into a project. I didn't used to be this way, by the way. We talked about the shit show. I learned the hard way. Early in my business, I was like, I'll take anybody, man. Just give me your money.
Money's
I'll
green. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
Check
I will
doesn't
bend
bounce.
over. Exactly. And it turned into like a nightmare every single time. And you've been in this position, I'm sure, where you sort of have like this gut feeling like this doesn't really feel right. And I can remember on multiple occasions turning to my partner after the meeting, I just don't really know if I can represent this person, but I'm just going to take it anyway. All right. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take one for the team. And we all know how that turns out.
We could talk a whole other episode on that. I'm just going to make a little note because my goodness, how many times we ignore that until we finally are like, that was the whisper and the brick against our head before the wall came down.
Yeah.
Stupid money, stupid checks that you're cashing. I hate when that happens though, you know?
Yeah. But the problem is when you're early in your career, especially when you're launching something new or you're an early entrepreneur, is you don't have a lot of confidence in maybe yourself or your product or the values. You sort of reside in this like scarcity module of like, I have to make this work. Like there's no way. So I'm just going to take whatever. And you end up not listening to yourself and you end up taking on work that just doesn't work for you. So
yeah, or even confidence in that intuition. Like forget the other things. Us entrepreneurs, we just know that we're going to succeed. Like we're going to do it regardless. But it's that confidence in that intuition of knowing like, this probably isn't the right fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have the voice that whispers in the back of your head and you got the little angel on each shoulder saying, no, don't do it. Just do it. Once I started learning that lesson the hard way, of course, really what it comes down to at the end of the day is how do you respond to it? And so for me, responding to that and being self-aware enough to be able to see that and make those changes and having people that you work with, like I belong to a mastermind, for example. So surrounding yourself with really good people and it really is fundamental in any entrepreneur's growth. But in a roundabout way of answering your question, we are very systematic and scientific about how we engage early on with our clients in what we call our brand discovery. And I use a lot of psychology. I use a lot of Carl Jung to go into that space, really getting to know who they are, what they do, why they do it. And through that process, you can really hone in on sort of the psychology of this value proposition that this brand wants to represent. And then when you combine that with data and research and competitive analysis and really understanding all the different paradigms that exist and the algorithms in social media and looking at Google data, you can really paint a fantastic composite of what this brand could potentially do. And we're going to provide you with the tools. We're going to present ourselves as a marketing arm to partner with you to help you do that. Now the rest is sort of in your court to sort of grow with us. Then we conversely grow with you.
I was surprised Matt didn't ask this question already because it's a very lawyer-ish question. You used the word partner a couple different times. And when I sit in a room or a virtual room with Matt, I always know when he hears the word partner, his antenna goes up. And he's like, hey, wait, is that like a true partnership? He has the literal legal definition of that. So when you say you partner with your clients, is there some other, is there an equity there? Is there performance?
JV opportunity, right? JV type of opportunity.
Exactly.
We'll take 98% of your company to help you get launched.
Exactly.
And you'll make a ton of money, I promise, right?
As a company, that's not something that we go into. I find that to be a conflict of interest, just to be frank with you. And so while I am involved on a personal level, helping other businesses, and I do have ownership in other ventures, Fusion Creative Brand does not partake in that. We see it as a partnership because that's really what it is. If I'm going to help you sell your business and help you grow your business, like let's say, Matt, you want to have an offshoot of your law firm, the only way I can help you succeed is by being in bed with you. Like I have to understand everything about you in order for me to be fully vested in that. And so in doing that, you form sort of a collaborative partnership with your clients. And that is not just a 6-month run and gun job and then we fade off into the sunset, because every business has an iterative process of growth. And so if we can get you through each of those stages, you're just moving into a next compounding level. And we want to be part of that. And so your success is our success and vice versa.
You bring up an interesting ethical question, though, just because I know a lot of people in different types of consulting and in marketing, as well as other ventures. As a lawyer, as a licensed practitioner, we have to essentially remove ourselves and advise people to seek out independent legal counsel. You should do things like that. I don't know if people in the marketing space or business consulting and other types of industries are as ethical as what you just identified there, Deevo, as far as really putting that clear line between, hey, this is a unique business opportunity, but I'm going to have that clear separation of church and state, which is, keeping Fusion away from it and present itself.
You give me an opportunity for a lawyer joke here. I don't think it's that lawyers as a whole are more ethical. I think they're bound by the law to do what you just said.
I said the license is what
I know, but then you said, I don't think it was as ethical. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd call them ethical.
Yeah, it's a good point.
In fact, they may skew the line. Thus, there is a law requirement.
There is the reason for us to have all the laws and things surrounding it. But I don't think that there are people who are operating in some of the marketing spaces I've at least seen that
I agree. Perfect example. I work with a nonprofit, right? I consult with them totally out of the goodness of my heart at this time. We've been together for a year. As they bring in marketing teams to make proposals and pitch, I am not there to propose and pitch. I am there to protect them on whatever proposal comes in, right? And that's true. Not everyone has that high of ethics where you would think that I would just want to propose and pitch. No, I'd rather be in position to protect them. But yeah, you're right. Particularly in marketing, not everyone has that.
Correct. Yeah.
Those hard lines.
Well, I guess it's analogous. I have 2 daughters, and it's sort of analogous for me of like having a favorite kid and announcing that, because I'm not going to be financially vested in ownership in all of my clients that I work with, right? And so I see it as a conflict of interest that, okay, so I have ownership in these 3 brands over here, but I don't have ownership in these 47 brands over here. So am I going to give them more attention because I want to see them go because I want to make that money? Like for me, I just say there's a blanket canvas here where I'm going to try to help you wherever I can, however I can. And because I'm not just a solopreneur, I have a team that's involved in this. Like there's a lot of different subtleties and nuances that play into that decision. But at the end of the day, I just made a moral decision that I feel like there's just a conflict that I might show favoritism to one of my kids over another just because there's more money to be made. I don't want what we do to be about the financial piece 100% of the time. I truly want to see the clients that we work with succeed because I got into this business for a reason. I found out what my North Star is. I understand what I'm really freaking good at. And I mean, we all know what happens when money gets mixed in with everything. It just sort of tarnishes a lot of things. And if you don't have the right perspective on it, then it changes the game.
Definitely.
Yeah. Also, if my sons listen to this ever, my favorite child is the one standing in front of me. I will hold true to that. Oh, you're my favorite. Oh, you're my favorite. Yeah.
We have favorites at different points of time, right? It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
right now, I don't want you anywhere near me. Just go to your room and shut the door and don't come down.
I know when my wife is on the good side of her parents because she gets the phone calls every single day. And I also know when she's on the bad side against her brother because I'm like, have you talked to your parents in the last month? So I think that continues throughout your whole life is what I think is what actually happens.
Sure.
So,
I'm one of 12 kids, so I completely appreciate that. And my parents did have favorites. I was one of my mom's favorites, but I was one of my dad's least favorites. And so I know what the output of that looks like. We should probably get on a therapy chair and lay down and talk about this right now.
it's a whole other show for us. Probably.
We need my therapist on this call. Can we make this a foursome?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so all of that brings up something really important that I think we've got to talk about with you, and that is about brands telling their story, about storytelling through branding. I always say it warms hearts and wins wallets when you can tell a great story, especially if you can inflect some humor. Could you share some examples of a business whose brand you've helped shape, and how did that impact their work?
Yeah, well, before I do that, I'd like to just extrapolate a little bit more than what you just said. I think at the crux of everything we do, whether we're branders or economists or lawyers or marketers or teachers, everything really is about the essence of connecting with other people. And I don't know if you're married and you have partners or whatnot, but think about the relationship that formed when you met that person, or you have a best friend, or like even your siblings. Like I get along with some of my siblings way better than I do other ones. And it's because we have a different type of connection, right? And I don't make any qualms about it. I'm sorry, but I like one of my brothers better than I like my other brother. One of them is not very nice to me, and the other one's like, he actually genuinely cares or gives a shit about me. And so not everybody is our people, right? Like we have to be very specific, the type of people that we get in bed with and do work with, because that can make or break so many different elements, from your own personal sanity to your financial success to their success. And if you're not partnering up with the right type of people, you end up getting divorced pretty quickly. That being said, the whole idea of branding and building a business is establishing that authentic story and being able to tell that to the right person and connecting on an emotional level with them. We're working with a client right now where she does mobile IV infusions. And for the longest time, this is what she did, is her like 9-to-5 job. She worked in the hospital, she was in hospice and doing a whole bunch of different things. And so she had this idea of like, how can we make this type of care, nutritional, nutrient dense vitamin supplements that we inject into our arms, available to everybody? So she had this idea of creating this mobile concept around this, but she'd never been in business before, no entrepreneurial experience. I met her almost 15 years ago when I photographed her wedding in Turks and Caicos. I built a strong enough rapport apparently with her that she felt compelled. And she's like, I could think of only one person to call when I want to start this new business. So a year later, we helped her establish this brand. We helped her build a foothold in the market. We've connected her in all sorts of areas of the community where she's giving out injections at day spas, and she's partnered with medical spas. And we have her partnering with like these massive high residential suites in the Charlotte where she gets to show up on a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night and give all their residents these IV infusions.
Let's dig into the storytelling. What does that look like? If you were to walk through an exercise, here's a few things you all should ask yourself as you begin this journey of figuring out heartstrings, figuring out emotions, figuring out what the brand is missing.
Yeah. Can I plug? I actually have a workshop. We do one once a month. We have a branding and marketing blueprint workshop. It's a 1-day, 4-hour course. And we actually teach you how to do this. If you're getting ready to launch a business, there are some basic elements you should make sure you have lined up. And not to use cliche buzzwords, but like, what's your mission here? What is it you ultimately trying to accomplish with this business? Why did you start this podcast, right? You want to connect with a larger audience. You want to share your insights. You and Matt have great ping pong back and forth. You have nice dialogue. You're very intellectual. And you want to be able to bring people on who can bounce off with you and have a communication with you that is useful to your audience, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be in business. You're not just doing this for shits and giggles, or maybe you are. But the point is, you set out with a reason for why you wanted to start this podcast. A lot of times clients will come to us and they're like, well, I'm good at this and I like doing that and I really love doing this and I also like that, by the way, but I'm not really sure where to start. So our job is to help you sort of funnel all of those ideas down into like a couple of key pieces that are actually scalable and buildable and solve a problem for somebody. And then once that piece is established, then there are other pieces that go into that puzzle. What is your sort of values around running a business? Like what really is important to you, right? Is it honesty? Is it integrity? Is it financial metrics? Is it collaboration? Is it partnerships? Like what are the values that you want to bring to the table? There's exercises that we have that are in place for those that ultimately help us drive down to this is what we are. This is why we exist. This is what we want to do. This is how we're proposing to do it. And these are the people that we want to sell all of that to. And then once that is built, you have what we call your brand message.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Because you support entrepreneurs, founders, teams, I want to ask you about those people like you who repeatedly take new ideas and turn them into successful strategies. God knows it takes a whole lot of ideas, good, bad, and different, before they're always successful. So do you have an example of success that you didn't see coming? Something that surprised you?
Yeah, my crypto.
There you go.
And what's about to happen in the next 6 months. Yeah, that's a cool question if I can expound on that. I have a pretty big Instagram and a lot of photographers follow me. I had a lot of people that were just DMing me all the time, asking me how I did this and how to do that and how to do this. And so I started offering these little workshops just for photographers. And that's kind of how Fusion Creative was born. I love photos. I've been doing this forever, but I didn't think it was something that I could do for the rest of my life in terms of a sustainable model that really notched all of the pieces that I wanted to do with business and my profession. And when I got into the education side of it, and then I started working with people and having them grow their business, it just kind of snowballed. 4 years later, I'm here running this new business by accident. It wasn't something that I was necessarily looking for.
Hey there, busy movers and shakers. I get it. You're out there conquering the business world, hustling day in, day out. Well, guess what? We've got something to amplify your efforts, something that's about to make your entrepreneurial journey even more exciting. Introducing our podcast production services, your ticket to sharing your knowledge and stories without breaking a sweat. We know your time is gold. That's why our team of podcast pros will take the reins, handle all of the behind the scenes stuff. From brainstorming fun topics, introducing you to incredible guests, polishing up those episodes, repurposing your content so you can share among lots of platforms. We're here to turn your ideas into a podcast that's as easygoing as your favorite chat over coffee. Imagine establishing your expertise and your authority, making connections all across the globe in just minutes a month. And the fun doesn't end there. Our data-savvy approach gives you insights that will help you fine-tune your content and connect with your audience even better than before. So join forces with a crew that's as enthusiastic about your podcast as you are about your business, the SmartCookie Media crew. Let your voice resonate, your stories inspire, and your ideas spread like wildfire. Level up your personal brand through the magic of podcasting, whether you choose audio only or video too. Are you ready to dive into podcasting? Your journey to share your knowledge starts right here, because it's your voice, your podcast, with our expertise. SmartCookie Media, turning your stories into conversations. So tell me, what is one of the key lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur? Something maybe you find yourself saying again and again?
You always have a choice in how you respond to everything. You can be an asshole about it, or you can look at it as an opportunity for growth and fuel that towards something else.
Love that.
How would you define your entrepreneurial success?
I am very intuitive. I sort of always try to take the approach of meeting people where they are as opposed to trying to like force them into my little paradigm. And so for me, it's just always being able to be flexible and nimble.
Tell us what's a link you want us to know about, maybe somewhere someone can contact you directly or reach out to you, or maybe an upcoming workshop link. We'll definitely link in the show notes.
Yeah, probably the best place is just on Instagram or LinkedIn. On Instagram, we're Fusion Photog, Fusion, Fusion, short for photography, Photog. I do have my own podcast, so I do host that. It's called Unlearn Everything. And if you want to find me on my website, it's fusioncreativebranding.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deevo. Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in. Hey, Matt, we just wrapped up with Deevo, and one of the first takeaways I had to talk to you about before we even talk about the takeaways He mentioned a country music singer. He couldn't tell us who the client is. It was a has-been and then now is coming back into the scene. But I did think of Jody Messina. And I don't know how much you know about country music, but I definitely know about Jody Messina. She had a song in the 90s that was pretty big. And it's just like gotten a resurgence because some young artist now has redone it. I looked it up while we were on the show, Nicole, and it samples some of her song and it bases his song on someone singing her song karaoke. In fact, Jody Messina is actually in the music video. And I guess she does provide some backup for the song that's on the radio. And I was thinking as he shared that here is a former has-been who's coming back to the scene and how many marketing elements become holistic, right? It's more than a website. It is personal brand. It is what does she want to do next? Is it only singing? Is it her album? Is it something in the community? And I thought about how somebody worked really, really hard, either with Nicole to piggyback on a former star or how Jody Messina found somebody and mentored them and they collaborated together.
Do we all become a former has-been? I'm like,
Well,
oh my gosh,
well-
you got me on this like big thing in the middle just now. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be a former has-been someday?
But a former has-been is a great thing. You
Right?
don't want to be a has-been.
Okay.
You want to be a former has-been. Like you were something and then you took a minute and then now you're back.
Having like a character, panic attack here. Like, oh my gosh. But anyway, so that, I don't know if that was a takeaway or not. Hey,
Okay, let's talk about another one.
I liked when he talked about having to vet clients. Of course, they're vetting you, and at the same time, you should be vetting them. And we went down the whole path of taking on clients that we shouldn't have. The scarcity mindset, the idea that, well, what if I don't get another client? What if I don't make enough money? What if, as opposed to saying, no, this is just not a good fit. There will be another client. There will be another person I talk to.
Right.
Just the difference in mindset. I don't know if it's confidence, I don't know if it's experience, but some of those things lead us down a different path. And I think over time, we all get there,
Yeah, I agree. I think it is confidence and I think it is mindset and it is confidence in your own mindset, like in your intuition, that little whisper that you get. I think that we're always sent those moments of like, oh, is this it? And we just don't have confidence that we actually have that knowing power that we know, that we actually know. This happened with our editor recently. I shared something with her and she's like, you know what? I knew that would happen. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, I had this thought come across yesterday and then I didn't do anything with it. And so I think we all have to just flex that muscle a little bit more, trust that muscle a little bit more for sure. And it's hard to do that in the early days. I think you're right.
Yeah. What else you got?
Third thing that I got is he gave us a little bit of a sneak peek into his first few steps with a brand on trying to understand why they're here anyway. He rattled off a few for our own show, like why we might be here and who we're aiming to serve with our intellect. He did say our intellect, I'm just saying. Yeah. But then also, what's the point really? And so he's saying like that's what he discovers with his own clients. And I would challenge all of us to make sure that we are keeping the main thing. Is it financial metrics? Is it serving a certain demographic? Is it to be a community that serves others so that others don't feel so alone? Is it to create that mastermind, the true mastermind, right? Where a meeting of minds come together and support one another, not just some paid, high glossy mastermind. But I think it's just a reminder as he shared, like that's where he starts with people. I could get a little bored with, oh, okay, yeah, what's their mission? But when you really dig in to the things that he said, it's just a reminder to keep the main thing.
I would agree with that. And I think sometimes we get so distracted by words like, well, what's their values or what's their mission? What's their why? And we get lost. And I think it's because we've heard so much of it. We've been told you have to identify, go through that. Well, let's just get straight to the point of what we're doing, whether it's our clients or even just colleagues and people we're in business with. It's just connecting with them because those are just the vehicles, the mechanisms, the links that allows us to connect with them. At the end of the day, it's all the stories that go around what led you to have that mission statement, what led you to have that as a value. Why is that a value of yours? It's just connecting with them. And that's really what Deevo brought to the show today is talking about how to connect with your clients and those brands.
I agree. You have maybe never been so well spoken, but also so well muffled with your mic. I'm hoping it makes the edit.
Oh, shit. It's like literally in my hand.
No, it's literally in your hands. You've been listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show, produced by the team here at SmartCookie Media.